Ban books and censorship. The who, what, when, where, and why. First, let's talk about those who promote censorship. Government agencies, some parents, and individuals who disagree with the content of a book. Dominant cultures often use censorship to suppress minority voices. These include religious reasons. For example, the Bible and the Quran have been banned in certain cities throughout history by dominant religions. Also for political reasons, because governments may try to ban books in order to prevent people from developing ideas that are different from those of the government. Now let's talk about those who oppose censorship. The National Coalition Against Censorship, or the NCAC, the American Library Association, or the ALA, the National Education Association, or the NEA, the American Booksellers Foundation for Free Expression, or the ABFFE, or any individual who just plain disagrees with censorship. So when a book is banned, who does this affect? It affects readers, writers, publishers, educators, and librarians. So what exactly is book banning? It is prohibiting the use or sale of a book, especially by legal means. Before a book can be banned, it must be challenged. A challenge is an attempt to restrict or remove materials based on the objections of a person or a group. So what are some examples of books that have been banned or challenged? The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, 1984 by George Orwell, The Lord of the Flies by William Golding, The Giver by Lois Lowry, A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess, and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz. Let's take a closer look at Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This series includes 3 books entitled Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and Scary Stories 3, More Tales to Chill Your Bones. They were written by Alvin Schwartz and illustrated by Stephen Gammell. These stories were adapted from folklore and retold by Schwartz. Although they were written from 1981 to 1991, this series made it to number 4 on the ALA's banned book list in 2008. This story is called The Little Black Dog, read from More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz, and it'll also show some examples of illustrations by Stephen Gammell. Billy Mansfield said that a little black dog followed him wherever he went, but he was the only one who saw it, so people thought he was kind of crazy. To drive the dog away, Billy was always hollering at it, throwing rocks at it, but the dog always came back. The first time Billy saw that dog was the day he fought Silas Burton. Billy was just a young man then, but the Burtons and Billy's family had been feuding for years. When Billy saw Silas riding toward him, he went for his gun and Burton went for his, but Billy fired first. He hit Burton in the back, knocking him from his horse. Burton's horse ran off and his gun fell where he couldn't reach it. He lay there on the ground pleading with Billy not to kill him, but Billy killed him anyway. Burton's little black dog was with him when he was shot. The dog kept licking Burton's face and barking and snarling at Billy. In his anger, Billy killed the dog too. There wasn't much law enforcement in those days, so Billy wasn't arrested. But all that night he heard Burton's dog outside his cabin, scratching on his door and barking to be let in. "I'm imagining this," Billy said to himself. "I shot that dog. It's dead." But the next morning, Billy saw the dog. It was waiting for him outside. From then on, there was not a day when he didn't see it, and there wasn't a night when he didn't hear it scratching on his door, barking to be let in. From then on, Billy was always finding little black dog hairs on the sofa, on the floor, on his bed, even in his food. And the house and the yard stank of dogs. That's what Billy said. Whenever somebody told him there wasn't any dog to see, he'd say, "Maybe you don't see it, but I do, and I'm not any crazier than you are." Things went on like that for many years. Then one morning in the middle of the winter, the neighbors didn't see any smoke coming out of Billy's chimney. When they went over to check, Billy wasn't there. A day or so later, they found his body lying in the snow in a field in the back of his cabin. Billy had plenty of enemies, and at first it seemed like somebody might have killed him. But there wasn't a mark on his body, and there weren't any footprints out there except for Billy's. The doctor said Billy probably died of old age. But there was something odd about his death. When the neighbors found Billy, there were black dog hairs on his clothes. There was even a few on his face. It smelled like a dog had been out there. Yet no one had seen a dog anywhere. So why was this series challenged? First, for occult or satanic themes, religious viewpoints, which includes the mention of the Bible in some of the stories, for violence. In almost all of the stories, someone dies. Social reasons, which was mainly because parents were complaining that their children were having nightmares and couldn't sleep after reading these stories before bed. And also the illustrations were found too scary and inappropriate for children. So when were books first challenged or banned? Well, it dates back to Aristotle, and prior to the invention of the printing press in the 1500s, book burning was common because it destroyed what was commonly the only copy of a book. In the 1500s, the Index of Forbidden Books was created and was finally abolished by the Vatican in 1966. More contemporary acts of challenging include removing literature from schools and supplementary reading lists for children and teens. Now let's talk about where books are challenged or banned. Books are challenged or banned all over the world. Sometimes it's in large areas, such as whole countries. For example, Russia just recently banned Hitler's Mein Kampf from their country. It can also be in smaller areas, such as a single school or a single school district. So why would anyone want to challenge or ban a book? There are four main reasons. The first is social reasons, which includes things like violence. The next is religious reasons, because people tend to think that their religion is the only religion. Political reasons, which causes the government to heavily challenge books. And sexual reasons, especially if they contain issues of violence and rape. That leads us to my opinion of banned books and censorship. I believe that everyone must make a conscious decision to read a book. Those who do not agree with the subject matter should simply choose not to read it. Parents should have the responsibility of censoring what their children read. This should not affect what anyone else reads. As an alternative to banning books, a rating system should be put in place similar to that of movies and video games. This would help parents and readers select appropriate books.